Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It has been a while. After I released my film Fanboy, I decided to take a little bit of a hiatus, do some reevaluating, take some time to myself, do some writing, think about where this YouTube channel is going to go, where I want it to go. And now that I've had the opportunity to do that, I'm really excited to be back making videos. I wanted to start off 2022 by talking about the best movies or my favorite movies from 2021. I like making top 10 lists. I like making top 5 lists. Let me know if you want those to come back. And I think that 2021 had a lot of great movies in it. Of course, it's not the best year ever for movies. There were a lot of duds, not gonna lie. 2021 and especially 2020 were both years where I think everybody needed a little bit of a distraction, and these movies provided that. So before I get into the list, I just want to clarify, these are my favorite movies from 2021. These are not the objectively best movies of 2021 because that would be a very, very, very different list. But this list are the top 10 movies that I had the most fun with or that moved me the most in 2021. Before we get into the list, I do want to give a couple of honorable mentions, and by a couple, I mean 20. Those honorable mentions are Army of the Dead, Bad Trip, Boss Level, Come On, Come On, Cowboys, Dune, Eternals, Free Guy, The Green Knight, The Last Duel, The Night House, Nobody, A Quiet Place Part 2, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Shiva Baby, Spencer, Till Death, Werewolves Within, Wrath of Man, and let's even throw in Zack Snyder's Justice League. It was a lot better than the turd sandwich that was Justice League. But with all that out of the way, let's jump into my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Number 10, Coda. If you have Apple TV Plus, you need to check out Coda right now. Coda is a movie that made me laugh as much as it made me cry. It centers on this girl who is a child of deaf adults, and her brother is also deaf, so she feels a little bit alienated in her family. However, she also feels alienated at school with other kids making fun of her. But she has a gift, and that is singing. But I really, really enjoyed this movie because it talks about the culture of the deaf community in a really, really, really interesting way. Basically, you see it from Ruby's perspective, how much she loves singing and how she feels like she can't really commit to this dream of hers because it kind of goes against what her family might want. But it also shows the family's perspective and how they can't really connect with her and how they can't really understand this gift that she has, at least not fully. And I think that the way that it balances those two perspectives is really, really, really interesting. Highly recommend checking this one out if you like comedies, if you like dramas, if you like crying, if you like singing, if you like having a good time. Check out Coda. Number 9. The Card Counter. I don't understand why Oscar Isaac doesn't get more attention. Like, I understand a lot of people know that he's a great actor, but I don't think the attention that he gets is enough. I also don't think that Paul Schrader gets enough attention for being the awesome director that he is. He wrote Taxi Driver. He also directed Blue Collar, Autofocus, Light Sleeper, and First Reformed. First Reformed being one of the best movies of 2017 that nobody talked about. And this is an excellent follow-up. The thing that I love about Paul Schrader is that he creates very mysterious characters who you never fully understand. However, the performances are so rich that upon repeat viewings, you can really get a deeper understanding and dig into what this character is trying to convey and who they are. And he also does a really good job of combining the brutality of modern America with a very familiar revenge story that you've seen before. And by combining those two things, he has created something that is unlike any other movie that I've seen. I also think Tiffany Haddish and Ty Sheridan give really, really good performances in this movie, as well as Willem Dafoe. I mean, he's Willem Dafoe. He's always great. So if you haven't checked out The Card Counter, I would highly recommend it. And also, just give Oscar Isaac more attention, please. Number 8. The Mitchells versus the Machines. This is just a ton of fun. This is one of the best animations that I've seen in a really long time, and it has basically a laundry list of actors that I really enjoy watching. It's got Abby Jacobson, Danny McBride, Eric Andre, Maya Rudolph, Olivia Colman, Fred Armisen, Beck Bennett. John Legend even pops up in this movie at one point. This is a really, really sweet movie, though, at its core. Again, another movie that made me cry as well as made me laugh. And it tells the story of a father and daughter who maybe aren't really getting along, but who do dearly love each other and want to be in each other's lives. And honestly, that really hit me. I also think Danny McBride does a really good job as a dad in this movie. He is very underrated, let me tell you that. While I was watching this, I wasn't sure if it was going to make my best of the year list, but immediately when it was over, I wanted to watch it again and again and again. And I can't wait to watch it again because this movie is just so much fun. Number 7. Pig. Nick Cage is an incredible actor. I don't care what anybody says. He is an incredible actor. He can do really big, zany, crazy, or he can do really quiet, subtle, and nuanced performances. And this one is the latter. It's really interesting to see Nick Cage in a movie like this, especially after the last 10 years of his career, because I was expecting this to be like a really silly, really weird movie. I heard some people compare this to John Wick, which, by the way, I'm also going to say, please stop doing this because this is not an action movie. You're confusing people. It talks about the food industry in Portland, Oregon, which I feel like I'm losing some of you already, but this is a really, really interesting mystery thriller drama that is also very bizarre, very strange. The underworld of this industry is very stomach churning in some ways, but this is a really, really special movie, and I hope that Nick Cage gets more roles like this because he's really, really good in it. Alex Wolff is also really great in this movie. I just love him. He's just awesome and everything. So keep getting more work. Number 6. Spider-Man No Way Home. I feel like I'm gonna get some shit for putting this so high on the list or so low. But hey, man, I still loved the movie. Tom Holland is an awesome Spider-Man. In some ways, he might even be the best Spider-Man, which really pains me to say because I'm really, really a diehard fan of Tobey Maguire's, but he is just so charismatic, so fun. Spider-Man also puts himself in a moral dilemma in this film where he is trying to help others who arguably don't really deserve to be helped. And I really, really enjoyed that it went in that direction. It didn't become about we just need to defeat the bad guy. It became we actually need to help them become a better person rather than just, punish them. And I thought that that was a really interesting direction to go. Zendaya and Tom Holland also have just incredible chemistry. I always feel like I'm more interested in their romantic relationship than the actual plot of the Spider-Man movie. But hey, maybe that's just me. And look, I don't want to get too deep in the spoilers because I know some people haven't seen this movie still. If you haven't seen this movie though, what the hell are you doing? I will say that tall hair, long neck really stole the show in this movie. If you know, you know. Number 5, Last Night in Soho. I love horror movies and I love thrillers, and this is the best one that I've seen all year. A Quiet Place Part 2 is really good, but it's also familiar and something I've seen before. This is very different. Edgar Wright goes very off-brand with this one. He is not doing his usual quick-cut editing. This is a very different stylistic choice for him. And in a way, it might not be as strong as his other movies, but I like that he did something different. I love Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy in this film. I think that they really capture your attention in both storylines that they're in. They're both phenomenal actresses. And I just got really into the story in this movie. I'm happy to see Edgar Wright trying something new, and honestly, I give higher points to a director that I love, who I know for doing something very specific, trying to do something very different. So Last Night in Soho, check it out if you haven't seen it. Can't recommend it enough. Number 4, Val. I bet you didn't think there would be a documentary on this list. Neither did I. I grew up watching Val Kilmer movies, and I've always liked him. I thought he was very charismatic, very charming, very talented. And eventually I did start to hear whispers of he was maybe a bit of a difficult person on set. Then I heard the defense that no, he's not a difficult person. He's just very passionate about his craft. And I'm glad I saw this movie because it really sets the record straight. Val Kilmer is a very passionate person, a very gifted artist, and I think in some ways, actually in a lot of ways, I think he's very misunderstood. The movie also talks about him recovering from his diagnosis of throat cancer and how it's really hard to talk and be understood. The film's also narrated by his son Jack, who is also an actor, and just seeing the passion that Val Kilmer has had for acting ever since he was a kid, growing up making short films and making films, trying to get into Goodfellas or Full Metal Jacket, eventually being kind of successful with The Doors, and just that drive to play a really interesting, compelling character has really made him a very different, very interesting artist. I thought it was very inspiring. I can really appreciate a movie like this talking about an actor who's pursuing their dream no matter what it takes and no matter what comes in their way. I also love that this film does not feel like a pity party or like Val Kilmer trying to be like, hey, look at me, I'm an amazing actor. It really just feels like an honest portrayal of who he is as an artist. And I'm glad that I saw this because although I did like Val Kilmer before, I like him like 10 times more now because this guy is a committed genius. That's all I gotta say about that. Number 3, Cop Shop. I'm gonna be honest, this one I didn't think it would be number 3 on this list, but I loved Cop Shop. Joe Carnahan is a really, really good filmmaker. Boss Level, I mentioned in the honorable mentions, is another movie that he directed this year that was very fun, that also starred Frank Grillo. This one I saw the trailer for it, I saw Gerard Butler, and I thought, no thanks. Then I heard really good reviews, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I was blown away by how funny it was, how action-packed it was, and by the surprise standout that was Alexis Louder. I really want to see her in more stuff. She is very charismatic, very fun, and just a badass. This movie also made me like Gerard Butler. I've never really been a big fan of his, but after seeing this, I'm like, okay, I get the appeal, and I like him too now. This was such a fun movie. Highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out already. Also, Toby Huss, hilarious and terrifying at the same time in this film. Don't miss it. Number 2, Tick, Tick, Boom. I love musicals. I have a little bit of a background in musical theater, and I love Andrew Garfield, and I think he should win the Oscar for this movie. I also haven't seen King Richard, so I don't know how Will Smith was. I know people are talking about him for Best Actors, but I think it's between these two, and I think that's pretty fair to say, because Andrew Garfield kills it in this movie. I didn't know the true story of Tick, Tick, Boom. I didn't know anything about Jonathan Larson, but I have heard the title Tick, Tick, Boom talked about with my theater friends. I knew that it was a very highly regarded show, as well as Rent, which is also written by Jonathan Larson. And I was just very curious to get a little bit of a history lesson with this film. What I wasn't expecting was to be emotionally moved by it. This film makes me really, really happy to be a creative person. And it also inspires me to, hey, keep making stuff. Don't stop. It's also another reason why I'm like, I gotta come back to making videos. I also can't stop gushing about Andrew Garfield because I didn't know he could sing. He's so good. It's unbelievable. If you haven't checked this movie out already, do it immediately, especially if you like musicals or if you're just a creative person. Maybe this one will make you like musicals. I'm talking to you, Greg. Number 1. The Suicide Squad. I never thought in a million years that The Suicide Squad would be my number 1 favorite movie of 2021. Look, is it the best movie on this list? No. Was it the best movie of the year? No. But it was my favorite because it gave me so much joy. This was the first movie I saw in the theaters after being basically unable to see any movie in theaters for a year and a half. Actually, that's not true. I went the week before to see Old and Black Widow, but for obvious reasons that did not satisfy me in any way. So this was the first movie that I saw back in the theaters that I absolutely loved. This had such great characters in it, and some that I've never even heard of before. Bloodsport, Ratcatcher, Peacemaker, fucking Polka Dot Man. But every actor in this movie kills it. John Cena was a standout for me. Never thought I would say that either. David Dastmalchian is always amazing, and he's fantastic as the Polka Dot Man. Viola Davis, I mean, she killed it in the first Suicide Squad movie, so that's no surprise. But Joel Kinnaman I actually really liked in this movie. And not only that, but this movie also made me get back into comic books. I used to love reading comic books in middle school, but I've kind of grown out of them, kind of became a little distant from them. I still read them, in high school and university occasionally, but just not as much as I wanted to. This one made me excited to read comic books again. I went on a whole marathon and binge of reading comic books, and after buying the Blu-ray for Suicide Squad, I actually also bought the case files. But if you haven't seen The Suicide Squad and you do like superhero movies, or if you don't like superhero movies, check this one out. Another reason it's the top of my list is because it's actually a good DC Extended Universe movie. Those are few and far between. Well, that just about wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what your favorite movie of 2021 was. I'm very, very curious. Was it Dune? Was it Free Guy? Was it Eternals? Let me know. Also very happy to announce that I'll be doing sketches again. The next one should be out next Friday, and in a couple weeks I should have a new episode of Sketch Read up. I'm aiming for the first or second week of February, so you can expect it by then. Anyhow, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay groovy, watch a movie. It's been a while since I've said that.